Hello everyone, and welcome to another video edition of Chaotic Fringe. You know what I find really fascinating? A lot of times when we hear a story, a national story, and when I mean a national story that we hear like a little blurb about, there is a story behind the story. And the story behind the story can, in most cases, be more fascinating, or at least give more insight into that initial little blurb we hear about to begin with. A few days ago, there was an editorial put out in a newspaper which got national attention because it seemed as though the story was written, the opinion, because it was the opinion part of the paper, it seemed to have been written by Brad Pitt's mother. And there was a lot of back and forth with the newspaper at first as whether it was or wasn't, and it turned out that it is indeed a letter written by Brad Pitt's mother. Now, what was the shocking part of the story was she was, we'll say appears, just to be on the safe side, it appeared by the letter that she was very homophobic. Very much against, not just homophobic, but against Barack Obama, and basically said that Mitt Romney should be voted on because of Barack Obama. And that's how the initial story went out, and that's pretty much the AP quick little status quo was. So what I did, I clicked on a link which took me to the actual paper where I read the actual letter that was written. The letter that she wrote was in response to another letter in the opinion section, which was almost 2 weeks before. So I clicked on that and read that. Now, it was from a person named Richard Stoker. This is where the story gets fascinating, and it's a lot more juicy than Brad Pitt's mom writing a response, because here's what happened. Richard Stoker wrote this letter in the opinion section, and in it he said that while Mitt Romney might be a family man and might be a businessman and hold a lot of beliefs that a lot of Christians would consider admirable, again because you're going against the evil Barack Obama, he said a lot of people like himself, a lot of Christians like himself, were either going to write in Jesus on the ballot or not vote at all. And the reason why was because Mitt Romney was a Mormon. And he very quickly in the letter put down reasons why, by Mitt Romney being a Mormon, everything that he had, you just had to disregard because he was a Mormon. And Mormons are bad. And so he is a Christian, and he was urging other Christians not to vote for Mitt Romney because he was a Mormon. Brad Pitt's mom actually was responding to that letter, where she basically said, hey, I don't care if Mitt Romney's a Mormon. I will hold my nose and vote for him because I don't want to vote for that evil person in the White House who's a liberal, who sat with Jeremiah Wright, who kills babies and doesn't believe in God. That's what she had. So what you have here, the initial thing, like I said, the initial thing was, hey, we got Brad Pitt's mom writing this letter. Ooh, that's terrible and awful. And when you actually look at the page, when you actually go to the news page, the response to the initial letter, nothing. No one responded to the initial letter that this person wrote. Brad Pitt's mom letter had, I believe, close to 100 responses, and her letter has only been out 3 days. 4 days. It has not been out a lot, whereas his letter has been out for a couple of weeks. That's what I find fascinating. His letter is put out. He writes a letter. It's put out there. Nothing at all. where he's basically telling people don't vote for Mitt Romney because he's a Mormon, which had been a hot issue during the Republican campaign. But Brad Pitt's mom writes a letter in that gets printed. It's Brad Pitt's mom, and oh my goodness, I can't believe Brad Pitt's mom would be this. I can't believe that she's so bigoted and she's so this and she's so that. Yet what you have is two people fighting about whether they should or should not vote for Mitt Romney because of his religion. That's the more fascinating story. Yes, I agree. What she said was a lot of, we'll call it incendiary talk. But we've heard that incendiary talk before. It's like, wow, is this something new? If she is a born-again Christian, as she says, and she into the real born-again Christian thing, hey, she's going to have those opinions no matter what anyone says. That's going to happen. What also is fascinating in this story, the letters were printed. You know, these were things that were printed and put into the paper. Not that that's a bad thing that they were printed in the paper. That's not the thing. It's just that a lot of times you're talking about opinions of the community. So if you have someone that's a crackpot that's talking about JFK was not killed by a magic bullet but was done by the Illuminati and things like that, the letter probably wouldn't get printed. In this particular case, you had the first letter being printed, and then you had Mrs. Pitt's letter printed in the paper. That was fascinating. I also found the responses coming back. Now, I'm sure a lot of the responses were from people not in the region, but I was really shocked by the defense of her in the responses. And these were not short responses. What was fascinating to me, normally when you read stuff like this and you have people that are going back and forth in disagreement or agreement with the writer, they're normally these short, incoherent, unintelligible things. Whereas people put a lot of work into the responses they gave. Yes, a lot of them put in scriptures that said one thing or another, but there was a lively conversation as to, and it wasn't because of her celebrity, that wasn't the issue. It was the issue of, should Christians vote for Romney because he was a Mormon? And yes, she said, and also they were saying, yes, there's some things that she said that they didn't necessarily think that other people would understand, but hey, that's the Christian point of view, so it should be okay. So it's fascinating. It was fascinating reading the comments that were in there that weren't just the usual mud back and forth thing. Which brings me to another kind of scary thought about that. That means you have people that are really debating on the Republican side, it would seem. They're debating still whether Mitt Romney should be voted for president, not necessarily on his accomplishments, not necessarily that they agree with his policies, because both of the letter writers essentially said, we don't like Mitt Romney. We don't like him. But we hate the guy that's president even more. We hate him even more. So if in one case, don't vote at all. The other case, I will hold my nose and vote for him, even though I don't believe with the principles of his religion. That's fascinating. That's the fascinating thing for me. That the debate is so tortured that they're looking at the candidate that they admit that they don't like and will vote or not vote for him because of his religion, and that's it. This is going to be fun. This is going to be an interesting couple of months to see how this stuff plays out. So I thank you again, and I will talk to you soon.